Hey, it's Bill Dewey's pro voiceover talent and voiceover career coach. Welcome. I am so glad you're here today. Thanks for checking out the video. Thanks for stopping by the channel. If you haven't yet, hit the subscribe button and make sure that if you like the video, give it a thumbs up and share. Today, I want to talk to you about becoming more likable as a voiceover talent. Don't we all want to be more likable? When you're likable, people want to hang around you. They want to hear what you have to say. And being likable can only do you good as a voiceover talent. So when I say likable, does that mean that I want you to always be very soft-spoken and always have a smile on your face and, be kind of warm and cuddly? No. I mean, certainly there are times when that's appropriate, but that's not what I mean by likable. To be likable in voiceover in particular, and I think in life in general, I think it's true that being likable means being trusted. People like the people they trust. They might not even always like what they have to say, but they believe what that person has to say. That person may say it softly and quietly, or they may bark it in your face. But at the end of the day, if you trust that person, you're going to pay attention to what that person has to say. So to be a likable voiceover talent is something that's highly desired because it will help you to win more work, more jobs, make more money as a voiceover talent. And of course, that's what this channel is all about, making you more profitable as a voiceover talent. So before we get into the 3 keys to being a more likable voiceover talent, let me share a little history. Let me set the table, give you a sense of why we're even having this conversation. If we look at the history of communication and even culture in the United States, things are very different now than they were, say, in the 1970s, 60s, 50s, and before. Prior to the whole hippie revolution in the 60s and on into the 70s, our American culture reflected military culture. It was very authoritarian. It was very top-down. Communication came from the top. We didn't need to necessarily have conversations and discuss things. We needed to find out what we needed to find out because somebody in authority told us the way that it was. Thus, if you look at voiceover, going back several decades, you'll notice that it was mostly male. They were men, and they were not just men. They were men with big, deep, booming voices, and they spoke with great authority. Because the idea was, I don't care what you think. I don't care what you have to say. I'm just going to tell you the way it is. So it was very much a one-way thing. And if you look at it, it permeated all of, I'm sure, other countries as well, but certainly American culture. If you look at it from the military, certainly government, and then from government, you look at churches and bigger organizations where we were told how to believe and what to do and how things were to be done. It wasn't really up for discussion, and that filtered down into our schools. I remember as a young child, as a grade school student, here's how I remember grade school, as being told where to go, when to go there, always in single file, and never being allowed to talk. It was very military in style. It was everything was always, we were always in single file. That's what I remember. Lunchtime, you go to the cafeteria, single file. Don't talk to anyone. You sit down, you eat, you got up, you took your tray, you went back. There was no talking, and it was always single file. It was very military/authoritarian in approach. And voiceover at that time reflected that. Unfortunately, that style is carried over with a lot of people, thinking that that's the way people want to be communicated with, when the reality is it's not. And I think if you think about the way you like to be communicated with, it's probably not somebody that's always telling you what to do, what to believe, where to go, without having a dialogue where you have a feedback loop. Now, in voiceover, granted, we're behind a microphone, our voice is being delivered, people don't have a chance to get into that conversation. But as they hear you, you want to leave space in their mind to imagine that you're sharing from a sense of what's not just the way it is, but the way what's in their best interest. And also so that they in their mind can have that conversation with you. They don't feel like they're being barked at, but rather they're being shared. Somebody's sharing information that's vital to them. Here's a big part of that problem, and that is we don't think in terms of context. We see the script, we see the words. Our focus is on sounding good, sounding convincing, sounding this, sounding that. Nobody cares how you sound. What they care about is, can I trust this person? Do I believe this person? And so when it comes to being likable, we're shifting this focus away from me reading the script, trying to sound a certain way, and we're trying to now engage the audience by allowing them to believe us. So that's a pretty tall order, right? How do we become likable, which in voiceover equals trust? How do we become trusted? Well, a couple of things. Number one, never talk at people. And really talking at people is what I just described. It comes from, it's not a style so much as it is an attitude. We're looking at the script, we're looking at the words, we're not even thinking about the people that we're talking to. Do you want to have somebody talking to you without any regard to the fact that you're actually there listening? They're just there to deliver a message and they don't care what you think? No, that's not persuasive, that's not convincing, that's not engaging at all. But so often that's what we do. Give me a script. Sound conversational. I'm going to sound conversational. Again, nobody cares how you sound. What they care about is how you make them feel, and can they be trusted, or can you trust them with what you have to say? So don't try to talk at people. You're going to have a conversation with people by thinking context. Who are you? Who are you talking to? What's the context of the conversation? What's the problem that you're trying to solve? What's the issue at hand? Give them space to lean in and hear what you have to say, so you're not just pushing out information. Imagine they're there listening, leaning into what you have to say. Allow some room for that script to breathe. Take a breath every now and then. Feel free to pause every now and then. Let your listener process and become engaged in that process. Number two, speak from your experience. What does that mean? Somebody's giving you a script. They wrote the words, you didn't write it. How do you speak from your experience? Well, if you don't bring your point of view, your experience to a script, you are missing out on the magic of voiceover. Because if you have no point of view, if you have no attitude, if you don't feel anything as you read, what's the point of them to feel anything or to care at all? So when I talk about speaking from experience, when I'm coaching my students, what I always tell them is make every script personal. What scenario have you been in where you can relate to what's being talked about? How did you feel about that? Allow yourself to feel that and communicate that point of view. And let me give you a personal example. I do a lot of hospital commercials. I don't want to say that's my niche because I do a lot more than that. But if you look at the body of commercial work, I would say the bulk of it I do stuff for hospital systems all over the country. But when I'm doing, and I do this with all my scripts, but if I'm doing something for a hospital where I'm relating to, let's say, for instance, if it's a children's hospital or some sort of a child healthcare related type service, I'm trying to think of that parent that I'm talking to. I'm trying to imagine what they're feeling, what they're going through. I think about what that parent is feeling, and I make it personal by thinking on my own experiences. Have I ever had a situation where I cared about the health of somebody I loved, maybe a child? Yeah, I've got 3 kids. I've been in that situation. I've been in the hospital. I know what it feels like to be the vulnerable parent. And so they need to understand that I am empathetic toward them in real life. So you've got to, and it doesn't mean you have to have had a child in a hospital. What it means is, though, you've had life experience where people you've cared about have been sick, and you've cared about that. You have to bring that experience into that recording session. You have to think about it. You have to feel it. You have to communicate that in the attitude. And that develops trust. It makes you likable to the person who's listening because then they believe you. The final thing, and I see this over and over and over again, maybe more than anything else. Sometimes you just care too much. You care too much about being hired for the job. So what does that mean? When you start caring too much, you become less focused on the target, the person you're talking to, and where they're coming from. And it becomes all about you trying to get that job or do the best that you can on the script. And what that often results in is you sounding like you're always trying to convince somebody. Let me give you a great example that I use a lot when I'm coaching somebody. Think of Sam Elliott, the actor, the voice of Dodge Ram trucks. What is it that makes him so powerful as a voice talent? First thing you might say is, well, it's his big, deep voice. Well, he does have a big, deep voice, and it's awesome. There's no doubt about that. But is that really what makes him so great? No. He has supreme confidence. How do I know that? Because when he says what he says it from the standpoint that he believes it. He doesn't care whether you believe. He's not trying to convince you. He's not trying to sell you on it. He just says it. This is the way it is. And he believes it. Or at least, as an actor, you believe he believes it. He's put himself in that headspace. That makes him highly believable and trustworthy and likable. I mean, who wouldn't want to meet Sam Elliott after all? So you have to quit trying to convince and sell everybody that you're talking to. And it's also, it manifests itself in your voice pitching up. So where normally you might have a conversation like this, it becomes like this. So when that tension and that nervousness hits, your voice pitches up about a half an octave. And now it's like everything you say is like this. And that tells me that you're not confident in what you're saying. You're trying to convince me because you're not convinced. That's shooting yourself in the foot. So quit trying to convince me. Don't, relax yourself so your vocal cords don't constrict and you pitch up a half an octave. That's a giveaway. That's the person I cannot trust because they're focused on trying to convince me of something. And also, it manifests also in being in a big hurry. You're trying to rush through the script, not because consciously you're trying to, but at a subconscious level, you are so nervous, you're trying to get to the end before you screw it up. That's why I believe in, at least on your first few reads, in this, the script will dictate how fast you have to go, but at least start off with a few reads where it's slower. Allow it to breathe, pause, because you'll begin to understand what you're talking about. You'll be giving your audience a chance to digest what you're saying. And then if you need to speed it up a few seconds to fit the time, that's great. But at least you'll have an understanding of what the story is and what's going on, as opposed to just trying to push this and your voice is pitching up and you're saying it in a hurry and nobody cares because they don't like you, because they don't believe you. At the end of the day, if you want to book work, you've got to be likable because people trust you. Take these tips and use them and see if it doesn't make a difference. I'm convinced it will, and you can share your experience in the comments below. Then check the description because I've listed a lot of my resources for you. Go through there and check those out. I'm trying to find ways to help you get the most out of your voiceover experience. And by most, I mean making you profitable as a voiceover talent. Thanks for checking out the video. Have a great day, and I look forward to talking to you again soon.